Hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Huskies Hockey Podcast. Weldie and Andrew here with one last episode here to kind of wrap up the season, talk a little bit, a peek into next season here before we do our monthly summer shows starting in May. Late May will probably be our next episode here, but you know, with the portal happening and we get a little bit more clarity when it comes to, you know, where things are shaking out, what everything needs to be done, where things are going. We figured here would be kind of a good recap, as you know, portal entries have really slowed down and set to only really for the next day or so and be open for new entries. So looks like this is it. And let's just say the Huskies got the work cut out for them. What do you say, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very different team. We know that for sure. And there might be some more. I mean, the deadline to enter the portal is in a day or two. There'll still be action after that. You just need to be in the portal by that day. But people can leave the portal, meaning find other teams. I think there's a deadline on that, but maybe it's at least going to be open, I guess, for people to find new places for another month or so. So with just the numbers game, needing like a third goalie, for instance, you think that you'd be able to find something like that in the portal. St. Cloud will probably, I would expect them to get at least another player out of the portal. But as far as guys going in, we probably have seen all of the ex-Huskies, or that's how you would become an ex-Husky to enter the transfer. I think we've seen most or all of those players, barring a last-minute surprise. But yeah, the team has turned over quite a bit, not just with the bench boss, obviously, but with the roster. Something like 9 or 10 players are going to be, playing for the Huskies that appeared from last year. It's a lot. It's a lot of turnover, and kind of getting excited to see how this team will shape up.
Just for funsies, I went back to the last lineup chart and just crossed off who's gone. The good news is, I guess, our best line that we saw of that weekend of Ernest, Rode, and Thorson, they're all intact. So they're staying. Werner Miettinen and Jack Ryman up front. And the only defenseman that played in that game, Thor Bufflin. So the rest of the defensemen have either graduated, transferred out. So
both goalies that would have appeared on that roster.
That's true.
Sheet.
Yep.
Goalies would both be coming back with Shostak and Berzins. But like I said, you're probably going to need a third goalie because Gray went to D3. So find another one of there. And yeah, as you said, the defense in particular is going to be completely revamped. Obviously, we hate to see a guy like Henrik's leave, but considering how much we kind of griped about the defense this year, maybe that's not a bad thing that we get a whole.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird kind of situation. It's like, I'm going to revamp it, but, they weren't that good. Obviously Henrik showed a lot of flashes and we were excited about his development, but he gone. And then Joe Belisle as well,
right.
not in, who is staying, and, he'll get a chance to crack the lineup. And Aiden Welch is the other forward as well. So, I myself am not in the transfer portal, although I do have maybe a slight confession to make over the weekend. And this is going to be kind of a shock, I think, to everyone, since, we do have a whiskey bit and all of the whiskey information that I bring to you, and Whiskey Dave and the Whiskey Podcast. I might be going back to gin for a little bit. Gin was my kind of one of my choices. A gin and squirt, so to speak, in college was my go-to cheap drinking. But I've been watching a lot of I normally watch a lot of YouTube, and there've been kind of this awesome mix of collaboration in the cooking channel, in the cooking sphere, in the cooking realm. Where one of my favorites is Binging with Babish. I like his vibe. He's a cooking, really good YouTube channels. You should check it out. And then they've had a series of videos with Elton Brown, who is on my Mount Rushmore of cooking back in the Food Network days of Good Eats and
Good show,
and
Good Eats.
Cutthroat Kitchen. I think he and then he did a little bit of what was the Iron Chef America.
Iron Chef, sure.
Yep. So I mean, and I like his vibe too. And then when they get together, it's been chaos, and those videos have been absolutely amazing. But basically, I've never properly had a martini. I don't think. Like anytime I've gone to the Martini Lounge, I've always got a Snicker bar or a Bomb Pop or a Lemon Drop. Teresa is a big fan of the Repeat Offender, which is the Bloody Mary one, which I've turned a corner on Bloody Mary. So I actually should go back and try that one. But I decided, you know what? I'm going to make myself a martini, a gin martini at home. I ended up having 3 of them and having a really rough morning, but I was a big fan. So,
really? So just the gin and the vermouth and
gin, the vermouth. I did add about 3 splashes of bitters and a lemon twist.
Okay.
Orange bitters. So.
Yeah, not my favorite drink. Not my favorite liquor.
I was surprised on how well it went down. I really was. So that was kind of my hot take, and I polished off my Bombay Sapphire that was sitting on the shelf for a long time because again I haven't had a lot of gin and tonics or a lot of gin drinks or a lot of other mixes that needed gin. But I went back to it, and I was, oh man, that martini went down incredibly well. And then Teresa said the next morning that I need a limit. So she's putting like a little embargo, I guess you can say, on like how many I can have in a night, which is probably for the best because it's straight booze and it goes down really smooth.
Liquor cut with other liquor.
Yeah, it's slightly less powerful liquor. And I don't do the olive. I don't do a dirty. So I don't do any of the brine or anything like that. So I just.
Do you drink it out of, do you use the martini glass?
I did. I used the coupe, which I use for my whiskey sours. I don't have like martini glasses, but I was looking at getting some Nick and Nora glasses for my martini.
I had a cocktail this weekend out of a coupe glass, and like the martini glass, I'm like, I hate drinking out of these. They're like bad vessels. It's too much surface area. It's too easy to spill because it's got a stem, and if it sticks to the table, then it sloshes all over the place. It needs a proper glass for me.
Sure.
Especially if I'm in 2 martinis already, that there's going to be some of that martini is going to be landing on the ground.
It's going to be somewhere else. Sure. That's where the Nick and Nora glass is. At least the surface area is a lot smaller. But
I'm not familiar. Is that a reference to the Thin Man movies with the Nick and Nora?
I don't know actually what the reference. I didn't even know they were called Nick and Nora glasses.
It was a series of films in the 30s that were featuring husband and wife. Kind of, they get in like detective capers, more comedies than anything. But they were just drunk as a skunk throughout the entire. Oh,
that it has to be that. Let me do a quick search in the Google machine. Yes, you are correct. Good job on that reference. I don't know.
The first one, the only one I've seen is the first one. And it actually, I would say it holds up well. It's worth it for a 30s, like screwball comedy type of thing. But
good old 30s. There's also Nick and Nora sleepwear. Interesting.
Okay.
I don't think that's the same reference. I think.
And they had a dog. The couple had a dog named Asta, ASTA, which became a staple in crosswords. We really don't see it very much anymore, but for decades, that was what was keeping the Thin Man alive. Was that Asta, the dog?
The dog
was in a lot of crosswords, like every other crossword with those letters.
Oh, we named the dog Indy. A lot of fond memories, that dog. But even though I have, dipped my toe in the transfer portal to the gin side, it doesn't change here that I do still like some whiskey. So let's get on with the last.
This is it.
Of the box. So the last of the Costco box. Here we go.
So we're talking about whiskey today.
Whiskey.
I guess that's Jason Bryant's next task. Maybe do a gin. Because is this going to be a thing now? Or are you going to do gin on the show? No.
With how well those martinis went down, there is absolutely no chance we're going to extend a bit to gin. So
maybe on a summer podcast, it'd be fun. We got to get one of those drunken summer podcasts in the can.
Maybe that, or maybe a rum concoction too. So
I mean, there's other gin drinks other than the martini, and I'm not. You brought up rum. I can't consider myself a gin fan. I kind of shiver when I think about it. But I would have said the same thing.
I understand that. Yeah.
I would have said the same thing a couple years ago about rum, and now I'm really turning the corner on rum, especially with tiki drinks like the Mai Tai. I make a mean Mai Tai. So I've been coming around on rum, and maybe in a couple years I'll come around on gin.
What type of rum do you usually go for?
Not like super high end stuff. The Mai Tai that I make uses a white rum as well as a dark rum. Myers dark rum would be my preferred dark rum. For the white rum, I'll just use whatever the house brand is, so to speak, kind of the cheap stuff. Mai Tais are great. They use a lot of ingredients. It's like 5 ingredients. So you get the white rum, lime juice, orange curacao. You can use triple sec. I think curacao is better. Orgeat syrup, which is a non-alcoholic almond syrup. It's a must. You have to have it for a true Mai Tai. Can't just use simple syrup. You could get away with it, I suppose, but you really need to use orgeat. And then you shake that up. I do the egg white, as one does, because I think
you got to
elevates any drink that you're shaking.
Any drink.
Anyway. You shake it up, you strain it, and then you float some dark rum on top, and it is chef's kiss.
Interesting. I felt like I've kind of turned a corner on rum once I stopped with the college, Captain Morgan, Sailor Jerry rum.
Yeah, not spiced rum. No, and maybe that was my issue, or why I was hesitant to dabble with it. Just the regular silver white rum, not any of this. Like, we're gonna put nutmeg and cinnamon in it.
Diplomatico.
I've aged out of that.
Yeah, Diplomatico. If you get a chance for white rum, that's what I have on my shelf right now. It's very good, so I highly recommend that. So
that's what this is about: getting older, and just maturing. We've heightened our rum standards.
Exactly.
That's what our 40s are like.
This is 40 right here. A long time ago, I had it was back in my college days. I don't know if I should admit this sentence I'm going to say, but at this point, I don't really, whatever. Like, what's going to happen to my credibility here? Yeah. It's God. I wrote it on a napkin because I thought the line was so good. It was like, I don't have standards in my women. I should at least have it in my liquor. That was back in my college days, when I was at the time, not ironically, I guess, a gin snob, when I would only drink Bombay Sapphire. So
again, so good. Mellowing with age.
I will, I guess, go down to Beefeater if needed. But if you're giving me like Knight's Guard or anything like that, I'm going to just spit it in your face. But anyway, the whiskeys, the last one here as the new riff Kentucky bourbon whiskey. And this was maybe controversial in my head because on my shelf, I have a full bottle of their barrel proof whiskey. So they're a little bit, so I'm familiar with New Riff already. I didn't know if I should add it or if that's going to kind of skew everything because I already have a bottle of it. So, but I decided since that's more fuller proof, this is just their 100 proof. It's not their 120 some proof. So I've decided I'm just going to enter it. And I'm just going to be as objective and blind as possible to get the rating here. Rundown of the scores quick. India is in the lead. Drew from India, 8.6. And then France at 8.3. And then Australia with 8.1. Those are the top three New Riff has to contend with.
This is the chance for USA to get on the podium here. Yeah, last chance. Podium. And it's fitting.
They had two on the podium in the first batch.
Yeah.
So
we'll see if they can keep it up. And this is fitting as he's going to take a drink here. It's fitting that we're doing the final whiskey tasting because we've got our receipts show later today where we go through all the bets that we put on the record throughout this season. And we're going to get Weldie here to tally up. He just did, I suppose, with our top three. See if this one knocks off any of those top three. But we've got the culmination of a season-long bid, and great timing. We've ended the bid on the last day of this season of the podcast. How about that?
This is so good.
Feels like it might be knocking off one of I think either Australia or what was it, India, and who's number two? France. Well, I guess you can't. You'd only knock off Australia, no matter what if this is in the top three.
It is kind of. I do kind of wish that I could go back and ping pong back and forth and taste the other ones, and that's I finished them all, so that's my problem.
That's an achievement.
But now I'm having this, and again, it's bourbon, so I'm partial to bourbon too, the corn and. Okay, I'm going to go one more sip. This is an 8.4.
Number 2 or number 3?
This is number 2. This edges out France at an 8.3.
So France to 3, and then USA
India,
to 2.
surprising.
India, the big winner. And what was the winner of the pack 1? Was that a USA? You said that there was 2 out of the top 3.
That was Ireland. Ballykeefe.
So it was, and then 2 and 3 were USA?
Then 2 and 3 were both US. Breckenridge and Green River.
Well, it was a good...
I should buy some Green River. I know that's...
Good bit if your country starts with the letter I. You like
right? Exactly.
India, Ireland... And USA taking half of the podium spots across the 2 bids.
Yeah. So I guess the bottoms of each one, I could go back and rank.
I know Finland was up there.
Finland in the first one, a 3.2, but Iceland at a 2.4. So the Scandinavians, not really Iceland, but those 2 were the laggards, so to speak.
All right. Well, to avoid those in the future.
Yep, exactly. I'll get the names. I'll get the names, and I'll publish the full list of my rankings as well. So I know everybody is dying to listen.
Indeed.
Or dying to know about it. So. But all right, let's get to some of the hot portal action that happened over the last 2 weeks. I know that everyone missed me and Andrew and all of our recaps, but you know what? We need to take a break and digest as well with all the news coming out with Oliver coming on board and the comments. Also, I've read St. Cloud Live had a couple of interesting kind of tidbits as well. They had an article about the 4 main people entering the portal and why they did. And I've got some thoughts I can kind of share on that article. But, obviously the big one is with Austin Bernovic, Tanner Hendricks, and Barrett Hall and Finn Loftus were kind of the 4 mainstays. Now, we kind of figured that Bernovic, Hall, and Hendricks, Loftus was a little bit of a surprise, but yeah, Bernovic, Hendricks, and Loftus all going to follow Brett Larson to Minnesota for becoming Gophers here next season. And Barrett Hall is end up going committed to Minnesota Duluth. A little bit of a surprise there. And his comments I thought were pretty interesting. It was very pro-focused, very much about steps in his development. So I don't know if he feels Seattle wasn't happy with his development here, want to try some more, or maybe he just looks at the writing on the wall and is like, this is a chance to win a title at Duluth. They're going to have a stacked team coming back, and maybe that's his chance there. But losing Barrett Hall and then probably Avery Myers as an honorary TikTok influencer, a Husky, that's going to hurt as well, as she's going to be turning. And I don't know how I'm going to feel with her getting some Bulldogs gear, and much like the Devin Millwater situation where she was the star of Dump and Change. And that happens. It was a little bit of a gut punch, but I think we'll be okay. Other notables, Damon Gardner, Jack Rogers, and Ocean Wallace in the portal, as well as Cocaine Bear. But we knew Cocaine Bear from even beforehand. So he lands in Division 3 for Newman. Jack Rogers end up committing to Alaska, and Damon Gardner to Minnesota State. 4th round pick, 26 games, only 4 points. Didn't really all come together here at St. Cloud State. And Ocean Wallace is yet to have a home. And so any thoughts about, a little more solidity of where the St. Cloud losses through the portal are? Any of your thoughts on that?
Well, we had talked even before Larson left in terms of flight risks. We knew, and we kind of presumed, that Gross was going to be gone, and he was in short order. The others, we just kept special attention to any drafted players. And then when Larson did make the move to the Gophers, that, the idea of who's going to leave, starting with drafted players, that was even made more. There was more emphasis once Larson was out the door. And sure enough, of the guys that you mentioned, the only drafted player on roster from last year we had Ingram graduate, but the only guy that had eligibility left, so Hall's gone, Gardner, Bernovic, Hendricks, all of those guys transfer out. The only drafted player from last year's roster that's coming back is Nolan Road. So I don't think that's surprising to me. And with a guy like Damon Gardner, to even lump him into this group of drafted players based on what the production that you cited, perhaps he's going to presumably he'll get a better opportunity in Mankato. He might be able to get some power play opportunities there. I'm not sure. He was a very frustrating player to watch over the last 2 years, because definitely got the size for sure, and he has the talent. We've seen glimpses this year in particular, though those glimpses were too far and few between. But so if those are the main guys, that the main portal losses being drafted players, that makes sense. And it also kind of softens a little bit of the blow, because those are the guys that are unlikeliest to play full 4 years for the Huskies anyway. So least surprising there. Then you've got the bucket of players like Wallace and Rogers, who I think are like the definition of replacement players, replacement level type players. I know Go Huskies Woo had big aspirations for Rogers. It just never really came together. There were some health concerns with him as well. Last year, missed most of the season, so he's got one more year left, and he goes out to Alaska to finish out his college career. But he's a guy that basically might have played once a weekend for this past season for the Huskies on a roster, especially a fourth line that really could have used point producers. So seeing him leave, I don't really see that as like a huge loss. You're going to be able to replace him either with a freshman recruit that you're bringing in or another transfer. We might get to the ones that have recently come aboard for the Huskies. Guys like Rogers, who had 1 point last year, Wallace. It says here that he had action in one game, at least in the Sidney Wolf's spreadsheet. I forget that. I can't remember the Ocean Wallace appearance or game played. Yeah, so CHN has zeros across the board, games played. His St. Cloud career, at least according to CHN, 2 games played, 4 penalty minutes. So that's impressive. His brother, really? By the way,
just 4? I thought he got kicked out of a game. I thought there was a 5-minute major in a game misconduct, and that's so I thought it.
Yeah, I thought you're right too.
Right?
It's CHN, so it very well could be wrong. Wallace's brother, he's got a brother, Winter Wallace. He was at Cornell and transferred into St. Thomas. When I saw that move, then I think, well, maybe Ocean Wallace will go to St. Thomas. We haven't seen that move. Perhaps St. Thomas is stocked up and doesn't have room for another player coming in this year. Maybe they only need one Wallace, who's 6'4", 225. Sidney Wolf has the same exact height and weight dimensions for those two brothers. So Wallace still is looking for a place to land. Maybe like Gray, it might be like a D3 landing spot for him. Who knows? We'll see. But again, like a guy that couldn't even crack last year's roster, not a huge loss for the 26-27 Huskies. So, I mean, again, these are impact players. Bernovic Hall, 2-year top 3 scorers, point scorers from last year. Henricks, probably your best defenseman, even though he was hurt most of the season. Loftus, high on the depth chart at the end of the season among the defense. Those players right there are huge losses, and sucks. But considering the circumstances here, the coaching change, the fact that we didn't get, especially when you're talking about that top line, what we think of now as the top line with Rode, Ernest, and Thorson, to keep all those guys together, I think is a plus. To kind of keep the bleeding contained to the extent that you did, even though it's going to be mostly a new roster next year. There wasn't, other than like, I think you nailed it with Loftus. I think that was the big surprise of the group. I didn't really expect to see his name in the portal, whereas like Bernovic and Hall I did. And Henricks.
I didn't think that right away, but after I kind of sat down and was like, okay, he transferred here from UMass through the portal, talking to Brett Larson. So it was kind of like, if you commit to a school for the coach and then the coach ends up leaving, I don't know. Like I look at it through that lens and I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense that that's the case.
Right. No, it does make sense. And the fact that we didn't get more of those type of players, and perhaps this is like the house settlement working in St. Cloud's advantage, not from St. Cloud, but from the Gophers' perspective, whereas Larson really can't bring in just anyone he wants based on the roster cap that the Gophers are restricted to. So even if a guy like Nolan Road, let's say, was interested in following Larson down to Dinkytown, maybe that wasn't gonna be in the cards because of the roster crunch, and even the Gophers have incoming freshmen as well. So in the opportunities we talked about in the last show with Loftus, sacrificing perhaps top pairing opportunity in St. Cloud for more of a depth role on the defensive depth chart with the Gophers. that's what I think made it a little bit more surprising to me. But yeah, for the guys, any of the guys on the roster, they all committed to Larson. You can say the same thing with recruits as well, incoming recruits. Those are guys that committed to maybe one of the assistants, and we'll get to the assistant coaching kind of situation in a little bit. But either they're committed by one of the assistants, even if they were more recruited by Enga or Rude. Larson's the head coach that they're committing to, and it's natural for at least some of those guys to want to follow the guy that they committed to in Larson. So I think this is part of the business, unfortunately.
Yeah, part of the new wave.
But in terms of, we've got those losses, but we've got some guys coming in. Do we want to talk about the new guys from the portal?
Yep. So Finn McLaughlin from Minnesota transfers up here. William Ulrich from Lake Superior State. Jacob Napier from Colgate, and Jameson Sluice.
Slice.
So Ulrich and it's Slice. Ulrich and Slice. I'm not sure. So I got correct on that one. Ulrich, maybe, I don't know. Jason Bryan right. can hopefully we'll hear his name quite a bit come through the sound speakers at the Herb, where we'll be able to, because that was kind of a nice get there out of Lake Superior State, out of obviously they had a very rough season, but 11 goals, 16 assists, 27 points in 36 games from Sweden. So, if we have Werner Miettinen and Finn and a Swede, hopefully they get along okay. But it's so that's got a couple of nice pickups, I think, throughout the portal.
Yeah, Ulrich, I would think headlines this class. These four players that you mentioned, transfer portal acquisitions, leads the Lakers in scoring with those 27 points, as you mentioned. He's got 2 years left of eligibility, so he led Lake State as a sophomore last year with those 27 points. 2 more years, like I said, of eligibility. Played almost entirely as a center, at least this past year when I was looking over box scores. That's actually one thing I wanted to mention. So we got Ulrich as a center, Rode coming back as a center. Werner Miettinen, who there were some rumors that he might prefer to go back to Europe after Larson left. It sounds like he's staying, so that's another center, and he'll be a senior this year, so he'll be like one of the few seniors on this roster. Basically, him and Ryman, right?
I think so, yeah.
So it's going to be a very young team, or at least a team that's very short on seniors. And then we should also mention, this isn't a transfer portal pickup, but Carson Pilgrim, who had decommitted from UND a couple of months ago. You probably recognize that name if you've watched the state tournament the last couple of years. He was a star for Warroad, with Shugabe, that whole group a few years ago. Been playing in the USHL the last 2 years, kind of struggled his first year, but putting in a good year this year with Tri-City, leading them in scoring this year. And he's a center. I would assume he's going to come in this fall as a center. Right there is 4 centers I'm kind of excited about. I mean, you're losing Gross, and he's tough to replace. But,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but did Ryman at least have some experience?
A little bit.
Center?
I mean, Aiden Welch has more centering experience, I think, than Ryman did. Welch's kind of cup of coffee he got last year was mostly at center, mostly the first month of the season. I believe he had an injury, which is why his time was limited. But he would be center depth, I would think, before Ryman. Sure. But I think Ryman's had a little bit of time in his Husky career as at center as well. But so losing a guy like Gross, tough to replace. But then you bring back both Rode and Miettinen, who we really were raving about Rode and his line mates towards the end of the season. Rode being the center, kind of doing the majority of the work, on that top line, kind of centering it. And he's the manager of that line, if you will. Yetinen, very good faceoff guy. He had a down year last year. Part of that was injury related, but he had put in 20-point seasons his first 2 years. We'd like to hope that he can do something like that in like a third line role maybe next year. And then Pilgrim is a guy who I think is probably a pretty high ceiling. It's hard to think of him and expect just like a 20-point right out of the bat as a freshman in NCAA. That's maybe a tough ask. But I think he's a guy that could really develop into a key contributor for this offense. And like I said, they've got reinforcements like Welch, whereas last year I think that's, as a group, even with the loss of Gross, I think the top 4 that I just mentioned there in centers, I'll take that over last year's top 4, just from the main purpose or the main reason that one of those guys is getting the 12 minutes a game that Rosborough is getting. And that's addition by subtraction. No. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but I mean, would you prefer Rosborough and any of the 4 guys that just mentioned?
No,
I certainly
I would pick an unknown Pilgrim over Rosborough. That's for sure.
And Ulrich, like I said, it's hard to
definitely Ulrich, yeah.
And getting translating CCHA points into WCHA NCHC points can be a tricky task. It's not like we can just say, well, he's going to get at least 27 next year in his first year in a tougher conference. But I think 20 points in that range is reasonable, and very good faceoff guy. He's in like the Sahlquist Gross faceoff percentage category. I went back and added them up manually from the NCAA or collegehockeyinc.com website that I like to use. So 50s, I tweeted it out. It's like 55.6 or something is his career mark, which is a pretty good, a solid face-off percentage. And like I said, he's capable of leading a team in scoring. So, and there's going to be a lot of unknowns when we're talking about offense next year. We can touch on the defense as well, but when you're talking about an offense hitting the center position, which is a position we talked about, was it last year in particular? There's been question marks in centers in recent history.
I'm a big fan that you win down the middle. The biggest concern I have for the Minnesota Wild is our lack of center depth. And that's, you need strong center play, and we're in a position, at least and again, I agree with you. It's weird to say with the loss of Gross, but, again, with our youth, and maybe this next year there might be some bumps and bruises and take it, but I think I expect a lot of growth. It's going to be kind of more exciting to follow.
Yeah. I think we should expect some of those bumps along the way. But if we can build something out from the center position, I think it's easier to find wings to complement a centerman than the other way around. Centers don't grow on trees as much as wings do. And so I like this group of centers that we're bringing in, and a little bit deeper than even those top 4, because we've got guys like Welch who are ready and able to step in if the opportunity should present itself as well. So just from a starting point there, in terms of trying to rebuild this offense, you've really got to almost entirely rebuild the defense. But with the forwards, you really have that one line intact from last year with the Road, Ernest, and Thorson line. And then you had Ryman. Everything else is being turned around. But I don't know if this was a focus or this was intentional by Oliver and company to try to find centers before you add other pieces. And this would probably depend on which of the recruits are still coming in. We've talked about Pilgrim, who did commit since Oliver took over. But I think that the other Larson recruits who we haven't heard that they have decommitted. We saw Kate Stingram recently. Sydney Wolf did her Instagramming detective work, seeing that he had not listed his St. Cloud State logo anymore on his social media. So which would be disappointing. But we haven't heard any of the other incoming or the guys that have been targeted to come in next year. Stevenson, Nathan Brown, Brock Such, a lot of these guys playing in the WHL currently. Unless I've missed anything in the last day or two, we haven't heard too many decommits in that realm. So you're going to be filling the roster with those guys too.
The big one I could say for defense would have been Hawk Huff.
Which we've talked about that. He goes to St. Thomas.
Yeah, but then Joey McGraw to Lowell. So I mean, those Hawk Huff was one that I was really excited and interested in, and but you're obviously with the situation you're going to have that, and I'm excited with a lot of these with the WHL recruits and seeing what they can do here at the D1 level. Nolan Stevenson for Penticton, who is in the WHL finals right now with the Everett Silvertips, playing against Zach Shantz, who is a forward, also on that. So we've got, happy we were, at this point still able to kind of save some players coming in for next year. And I think once, we get a little bit of a, that Oliver kind of gets his teeth into this. And I think that a lot of these commits are gonna be like, okay, this was the right choice. This is the right guy to play for. And I think the ball's going to just kind of go rolling from there. As I was thinking about this earlier today, like, I could see us in the preseason polls maybe getting picked 9th, 8th, somewhere down there, but I could see us contending for home ice. So that's kind of an interesting little, like, I could see that kind of scenario happening and us kind of coming up in surprise if things kind of work out that way. And then, who knows, maybe Oliver gets coach of the year because everyone thinks you're going to be terrible and you're actually not that bad. But with all that, and like you said, Nathan Brown, Brock Such, both on the central scouting list. So it's going to be an intriguing time. And it's going to be really exciting to see what this team's going to look at come October.
Agreed. Yeah. Probably it's a good idea if you're a Huskies fan to just brace yourself for some low picks in the preseason polls. It's just the narrative for the writers and even the coaches who would vote for these things. The narrative of, Larson leaves, new coach, 2/3 new roster. It's catnip for, we've got to tamp down those expectations. And there was probably some truth, some wisdom in that. But I agree. I think this could be a team that's kind of flying under the radar. We'll see how it all develops. We need to know, and we will get to know in the next couple of months which of these recruits are actually coming in, which are coming in this fall. Yeah. We have a good idea about timelines, especially if they're in the WHL. There's a deadline in which they are no longer eligible, 20 years old. So those guys will need to come in. The ones that we've mentioned, Stevenson, who's captaining Penticton right now. I mean, he figures to come in.
Chance.
And Chance. Stevenson's a guy that I'm really excited to see. Again, knocking on wood that he will show up to St. Cloud. But he's a guy I can see getting 20 minutes a game just because of the wide open roster right now, especially from the back end. You're going to need guys that are going to eat ice time. And one of those guys might be Jacob Napier, who you mentioned they're bringing in from Colgate. St. Cloud's got a decent track record getting ECAC defensemen out of the portal. You always got to think of Dylan Anhorn, which have been the best example of that home run that Larson hit with Anhorn coming over from Union a couple years ago. Napier doesn't seem like that offensive-minded of a defenseman that Anhorn was, but more of a stay-at-home type. 11 points last year for a middling to subpar Colgate team. Led the team in plus minus, which was a little unusual for a team that was as bad as Colgate was. It seemed like he was more second and third pairing, so perhaps his opportunities, he wasn't seeing like top lines of other teams. We've talked about how plus minus can be a little deceiving, a deceiving stat at times. So take it with a grain of salt, perhaps. But I think he's a guy that was getting 16, 17 minutes a game last year for Colgate. You can probably assume that, or maybe even a little bit more. I believe he's just got 1 year left of eligibility. So he's not a long-term solution, but a guy that I can definitely see stepping into, let's say, like the Mason Reiners type role. One of your main ice-eating defenseman that's more of a stay-at-home defensive-minded sort of defenseman. But excited to see what he can contribute. Slies, we mentioned him coming over from Western, didn't get much ice time at all with the Broncos. It's a pretty deep roster that Firschweiler has got over there, especially from the forward position. So it's understandable that he wasn't able to crack that roster. He's a guy that would have played briefly for Omaha in Oliver's year there. So a guy that Oliver has coached before. We're going to see that dynamic at least in the next couple of years when guys still are at the NCAA level that have played for Oliver at Omaha during that year. Most of those guys would be in NCAA now, but like we talked about the portal, those guys are always free agents at the end of the year. If they want to come over and they really enjoyed their time playing under Oliver, he's now a head coach. So I think this might be one of those examples where Sly's being familiar with Oliver was a deciding factor on him landing with the Huskies. So again, I don't expect like top 6 minutes from him right away, but a guy that had a decent USHL career and just seeing what he can bring to the table as well for the Huskies. So yeah, you add up, like certainly you go by points, most metrics, you add up the losses and then you balance that with the gains that St. Cloud has gotten from the portal. It's going to look like a bloodbath. But I think there's some promise in the 4 players that they picked up from the portal. And just, again, considering what could have happened with Larson's departure, and you could have really seen a mass exodus if a guy like Oliver wasn't hired as a response. Like, I think he deserves a lot of the credit, not just for bringing the guys over that we've just mentioned, Ulrich and others, but also the work that he had to do to keep the Nolan Rhodes and the Gavin Thorsons, the goaltenders. All those guys would have been free agents upon upon Larson's departure. If the portal wasn't literally open, they were keeping their options open once that coaching move was announced. But Oliver was able to do as much as he could to keep the talent that was remaining on the roster. I think he did a pretty good job with that. So yeah, this is going to be a very unusual Huskies season. We haven't seen one of these in a long time. And especially with the portal, we haven't really seen this at all, where you're losing guys, this number of guys and high-end guys to the portal, and then bringing in some guys that have intriguing stat lines, but there are kind of a bit of a black box. We haven't seen guys like Ulrich play in person yet. So it's one of those, like I said, curiously intriguing seasons, because I don't think the expectations are going to be very high, and that might work to St. Cloud's advantage. They're going to sneak up on some teams.
We've always been kind of best in that role, right? Whereas because when we're the favorite, things don't necessarily go very well in the pantheon of St. Cloud State hockey. So let us be a little snake in the grass. And it sounds like from what Holly Schreiner kind of in her talks in the press that people have come out and supported a lot of. She said she got a lot of input after the announcement about the hiring, and that's going well. And St. Cloud State just had their giving week. And I know Total, the Huskies Hockey Podcast. Also, we both Andrew and I did donate some of our hard-earned money that we don't get from Gritty St. Cloud anymore. So this right now we're operating at a loss. But I think I donated $100 each to both the men's and the women's program. Andrew, I saw your name. I can't remember exactly what you did.
It was the same.
Oh, perfect. So $400 total to the program. I know, it's not a massive amount, but I got 3 kids, so
I wish I could add another zero or two to my contributions, but as modest as they are, I'm happy to support the program.
And Teresa has told me if we do win a Powerball, we can definitely at least upgrade some type of seats at the Herb. One of the things that I found was really interesting with Holly's actual comments and, talking about the attendance. And I know we talked about a little bit about her comments last time, but one thing that, when my wife and I were kind of talking about everything, just bringing up is like, she talked about, needing to get the fans back. And I'm just, the big thing is I'm curious on how are they trying or what are they doing? What type of outreach? Because I think that's the main thing is like, if you're, you're yearning for the time of, 6,000 people back at the Herb. But, with that, it's, you have to look at what changes are you going to make or even research, what research are you doing to it? Like lapsed fans, are you sending them out, flyers or waivers or like any type of surveys to be like, hey, what will get you back in the building or giveaways? I know a lot of people are just going to say, well, it's just too expensive, but I don't know. My wife brought up a couple of instances where it's like, well, the seating there is terrible. If you're not in the black chairbacks, which is, where our tickets were here for the giveaways, we made sure of it. We wanted to be in those areas, even if they are just in the 200 level. But also, blocking up all that parking. I mean, parking down there is a terrible situation that you yourself caused by having all that corporate spots that sit empty. So you have to park down by Q Lot, which nobody likes Q Lot after dark. Nobody likes Q Lot during the day. Situations like that. And I do wonder how much like the Norsemen or the Lumberjacks, I know obviously like if you just want a hockey itch, that's a lot more pocket friendly when it comes to it, if you don't care about the quality of it. So it's getting those types of fans back. I know, their attendance figures, roughly about 600-700 a game. So, I mean, you kind of look at that as a way to, you're losing some fan base right there that are looking for hockey. But, I just what type of research is going on to see, what they can do, what thing they can try to get back. And I know they're nervous about giveaways if they end up keep being thrown on the ice, but at this point you don't have a lot of fans to throw stuff on the ice. So it's, kind of a situation there. It's, some things that I'm kind of looking at, and I know this is kind of a weird tangent to go on as a continuation from last episode, but if you have any thoughts here, otherwise I can kind of go through the schedule for the Huskies that was released for the conference.
I just have, the Norsemen, you brought them up and I wanted to do some research about that. Did a little bit of it. I thought it was more in the 400 or 500 range, but where did you get that figure that's the Norsemen that are averaging 600 to 700 per game?
I was looking at, I mean, it definitely was a range about 400 to 700.
Do you know,
like depending, like, and I didn't line up any of the dates of what other things were going on or like if there were other games, So
I'm curious if they play games on the same nights that the Huskies play. And
they do. Yes. They play weekends.
I know they play weekends. I'm wondering if that could be, if that is something that they would want to communicate amongst each other to try to avoid that. You'd think the Norsemen would benefit from not playing when the Huskies play and vice versa, just so they can get the same maximum number of hockey fans to attend their games. But if you have games on the same night, that sort of splits those two, that it splits the market a little bit. So I'm wondering if there's conversations that they're having, and then the Lumberjacks as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to guess Zamora right now is yelling at his podcatcher right now, is just as he used to work for the Norsemen. I bet he has plenty of opinions that he can definitely share with me. So
let us know. I'm curious.
Yeah, so that's he's probably saying it's the attendance is way overestimated as well. But when I looked at the NHL website for attendance, that was at least what was reported there. So maybe if it's, Premier just takes all the tickets and it goes by tickets sold, who knows? But it's it's just, just goes back to like, get fans in the seats, and you can say, we want the old WCHA back. And it's like, you just mean the Gophers, because that's really the one draw when it comes to it. I can't imagine, as much as I would love Michigan Tech to come and play here, I can't imagine a lot.
They are. You're in luck. Perfect. They are coming back.
I'm stoked because that you want to talk to a great fan base. It's those Michigan Tech fans. They're so much fun. But I can't imagine that's going to move the needle a ton when it comes to attendance.
Yeah, and getting it's just not possible. Sorry, that they're going to go back to the days of 6,000 fans. No. Last year, that Renicky article, by the way, had some curious attendance numbers in there. And again, I'm maybe the one guy in the world that can fact check that better than anyone. Said that the current season, which I think he had like 3,300 and change, but that was conference games only, and that was sourced from the NCHC. I tried to go on the NCHC website. They didn't seem to have any attendance figures there. I'm not sure where that number comes from, but the number I had, which is including all the games, including the non-conference games, was 3,561, which is still better than the first year in the Herbs history. And again, his number from the 89-90 season counted the games also. It was a suppressed number because it counted the games out at the MAC. That was a split season. They started at the MAC and then they played. They moved into the Herb, not the Herb, the National Hockey Center, as it was known at that time, in late December. They still played 15 games in the NCHC that year, which is almost a full season. They played 15 home games in the entire 2016-2017 season across a 6-month season. So, but this past year's number was only above that inaugural year at the National Hockey Center. I'm not even asking to get back to 6,000 average attendance. I mean, I'm just looking at, basically from when the NCHC started, you're looking at 4,300-ish as an attendance. That was pretty stable for about the first 6 or 7 years of the NCHC. As far back or as recent, I suppose, as 23-24, they were averaging 4,000 for the regular season games. Just give me over 4,000 again. The last 2 years have been 3,600 and change, and now 3,500 and change. I'm wondering too, now you had a 5th place finish, first round exit. I bet if Larson were still the coach, I would almost assume that number would have lessened a little bit next year, if you want to extrapolate that number with Larson. But now with Oliver, sometimes you see a bump with a new coach. There's a little bit of a rejuvenation among the fan base. Sometimes that can happen. Sometimes it boomerangs, and it's the opposite effect. I'm curious then on what the effect of this coaching change will be. And I almost have a hunch just on this first few weeks, it seems like there's more juice that's going around, kind of buzz going around St. Cloud hockey than there has been in the last couple of years. And if that results in an uptick in attendance, that's great news. But again, if we can just start small goals, let's bump it up over 4,000 first, and then we can maybe think about selling it out again. But yeah, these are tough questions, and it's not something that can really be done overnight. There's a lot of a lot of things that need to happen. It's a longer term process. But I think that we've got a guy that can make that happen and get the program and get the university, get the community jazzed up again about Husky hockey.
And I think a lot of that goes to what you need to do to get the students back. And I know obviously that's a big sticking point right now is how much enrollment has gone down, but you got to make it easier and insightful and incentivize your students going to the games, because they make the atmosphere, which make people want to go. I know people say like, I could just watch it at home on TV, but it's the atmosphere that makes it. And if you look on TV and there's a bustling atmosphere, you want to experience it. You want to go. Nobody sits and watches, an exciting atmospheric hockey game and be like, I don't want to be there. You want to be there. So, that's all for people who get paid a lot more than I do for the university to try to figure out. So all I do is just give them money and hopefully we get to that situation. Although the women's, they've got a director opening. I don't know if you floated your resume by, but I definitely looked at that. And I looked at the qualifications that I definitely didn't meet. And then I looked at the job of what they want you to do. And then I looked at the starting pay of a range starting at the low end of 45,000. And I thought, oh, hell no. Not if I have to do all that. So there's a couple of things going on there, but there is an opening for the women's team, which I definitely to get some experience. It'd be quite the job. I think after actually listening to this podcast and me talk about the team, they'll probably be like, yeah, no, that would disqualify me more probably than anything about my lack of a master's degree.
It's a lot, but it's a important position. And you know what? Isn't that kind of the thing now? You apply even though you don't hit those minimum qualifications.
I got AI. So, I could just have AI just figure all that out for me, right?
Correct.
NCHC schedule, conference schedule was released. When I look at the schedule, we can go in more depth if you want, but I look at it as who are we facing once, and where is our murderer's row? So I look at, who are facing once, the only places we are going to, and they are not coming here, that is Western, North Dakota, and Colorado College. So we're only going to those barns. They are not coming here. And the flip side of that, only coming here is Miami, Minnesota Duluth, and Arizona State. And then obviously St. Thomas, Denver, and Omaha, we played them 4 times. So, I look at that and, we open the conference October 30th and 31st, Halloween weekend. So hopefully there's a lot of atmosphere there against Arizona State. And, hopefully also the Herb is done by then. There's a lot of talk about they should be. And if we know construction projects, they'll go on a little bit longer. So maybe they'll play a few games at the MAC. How about that?
There you go.
Get back. And then I look at, where's kind of the tough stretch, and 2 of the 3 of them are at home, but I'm looking at that Minnesota, Duluth, North Dakota, Denver stretch there to kind of close out, November and December, early December. That stretch is going to be a buzzsaw. And that's, kind of coming out of that, maybe 2 and 4, I think would be okay. But that's going to be Barrett Hall's return to the Herb. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of reception he gets.
Yeah. And then, you got a bye week that splits that up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So you got Duluth and North Dakota, then a bye week, and then Denver. And 2 of those 3 series at home. You've got the last 10 games of the season. You've got 7 of those 10 on the road. So You're going to CC bye weekend at the end of January, then to Western, home against Omaha, going to Denver, and then finishing with a home and home with St. Thomas. So road heavy kind of end, and going to trips like with Western and Denver,
and
not easy trips there.
Yeah, and there's 2 weeks in between that North Dakota and Denver series at the beginning of the year, because that's November 20th to the 21st, and then Denver is the December 11th and the 12th.
Oh, sure, yeah. So you got the bye week.
So I would imagine you have one bye week and one
Yep.
non-conference. Probably
if so, St. Cloud typically doesn't play on that Thanksgiving weekend, but perhaps if you got the bye week on the 4th and the 5th of December, then do you want to be idle for 2 weeks?
No,
I don't know. It's actually a good point, because I'm trying to piece together this non-conference schedule. I think what I've heard, going to Vermont, going to BC, that's for sure. Michigan Tech coming to St. Cloud. I've heard Fairbanks is on the schedule, and then Bemidji. So I don't know where. And then you make a good point with renovation project. Michigan Tech fan let me know that his information is that Tech was coming on the 9th and the 10th of October. So I would doubt that they were playing the weekend before at home as well, because I think they're going to work right to the end of the renovation project. So I'd like to know when these dates, if they're going to the BC and Vermont trips. I don't know if they're doing those back to back, so they basically just stay in New England for that week. I don't know if they're doing it that way, or if they're splitting that up and making 2 plane trips to the East Coast, which seems like a luxury expense for a school like St. Cloud. I had heard too that when they scheduled that Vermont series, that the women were going to go out to Vermont that same week, or they play the series the same days as the men's team would. I don't know if that's the case. We haven't heard anything about the women's schedule. We don't even have a conference schedule for the women yet, much less a non-conference schedule. So I've been looking at other schedules as they bleed out, like BC, and like BC plays Denver on the 23rd, 24th of October, which obviously means they're not playing St. Cloud that weekend. So trying to fit it in. I didn't think about maybe the Thanksgiving weekend. So maybe we'll see one of these series take place there. But interesting. You don't have St. Thomas on the non-conference schedule anymore, because now they're on the conference schedule. We play them both home and homes in the second half of the season, which is a little unusual. Like you're going to be done with Arizona State right off the bat after the first weekend of the conference schedule. You're going to be done with both Duluth and Dakota before Thanksgiving. Those teams.
Hey, back in the Hackstall areas, you want to play North Dakota at the beginning of the year, and not towards the end. So
that's right.
So we'll see if Jackson is cut from the same cloth, because Hackstall was nearly unbeatable in the second half of the conference schedule.
He was pretty good in his first year for North Dakota this last year. So maybe he's continuing that tradition. I did tweet about this. I'm getting a little sick of going out and playing Denver 4 times a year. Be the 5th year out of the last 6 seasons that they played a series at Magnus and a series at St. Cloud against Denver. They've gone out to Denver, not counting.
Really, you can just say you're sick of Denver.
I am.
I think you speak for the rest of college hockey at this point.
Yeah, and it's not like Denver's been winning anything in that time period that I just cited. 3 natties in that time period. Not counting the COVID pod year, so 2021, 2020, 2021. Not counting that year. They've played a series in Denver every year since 2019, 2020. So lots of trips. You got 2 Colorado trips this year. You're going to CC and you're going to Denver. Like I said, you've got at least 1 plane ride, maybe 2, to the East Coast to play Vermont /BC. So lots, be logging some frequent flyer miles this year. But
it's okay, because jet fuel prices. It's not like they've skyrocketed.
Nope. Maybe they can take Spirit Airlines for those flights and save
those tickets are
that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like the toughest NCHC schedule. It looked like CC has the toughest run, at least with these conference, like who they play twice. They've got Denver twice, they've got Duluth twice, and they've got Western Michigan twice. You lost the lottery there. And Western, I thought, had the easiest run. Miami twice, CC twice, as I just mentioned, and then Omaha twice. But with St. Cloud, you've got one of the elites in that bucket of teams you're playing 4 games apiece in Denver, and then you've got the newcomer in St. Thomas, and then you've got Omaha, who I don't know if would maybe at this early stage they really haven't done anything in the portal, and they had a pretty bad year last year. I might pick them as my 10th place team coming in to the season next year. So maybe you get a break there by seeing that. But then again, St. Cloud, when's the last time St. Cloud has beaten Omaha, especially in Omaha? They always seem to struggle down there. So maybe not the best.
Turning over a new leaf. Turning over a new coach.
Let's hope.
So, exactly. We want to flip over to the women here quickly as obviously the women's portal. That's long closed, but had a little bit of movement there with some players. Lily Erickson ended up finding a place at Franklin Pierce. Sydney Jackal at RIT. Reese Strauss, freshman, ended up finding some time at Providence. Ruba Siskin going to Eau Claire. Sydney Bryant to St. Thomas, and Sydney Lamb to Clarkson. It's kind of the rundown of where those players are going. Most of them we knew about, but what we didn't bring up, I think, last time was the addition that St. Cloud State got from the portal. That's Tristan Thompson from Northeastern, defender from Hockey East. So that's pretty good get there for Yosuo and her company. So that's a good place. But we knew there would be a lot of movement, and when it comes to the women's side of it, it's a little bit more unknowns. That's kind of coming ahead, but they got some spaces to fill, and we'll see what the LSU kind of cooks up.
Yeah, you've got the goaltenders, both of them that entered the portal from St. Cloud, Paige Hugendam and Haley Lawrence. They're still looking for landing spots. And Hannah Arnold, who didn't get any action last year, redshirted, I believe. She was in the portal as well. She gets picked up by St. Francis Xavier, which is a U Sports team up in Canada. Do you want to guess what the St. Francis Xavier men's nickname is and the women's nickname is? It's a little different based on gender, but just do you want to guess?
Are they of the same ilk, like the Bucks and the Does type of thing, or are they completely?
It's less of a change than that.
Okay,
there is you're never going to get it. I'll just give it to you. It's the St. Francis Xavier X-Men. Like the comic book heroes.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then it's the
Yes.
So that's the first I've ever heard of a sports team that has those nicknames.
Hey, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm.
So that's where Hannah Arnold is going to be playing next year. And yeah, so Tristan Thompson, let's talk a little bit about her because decent season, more of a depth defender for the Huskies of Northeastern. So going from one Huskies to another Huskies team. But Northeastern had a damn good year, won the Hockey East regular season title, beat the Gophers in the tournament at Ritter, which they got in the Frozen Four as a result of that win. Got schooled by Ohio State in that Frozen Four. But good season for Northeastern. And Thompson played a role in that. Was a regular there, missed a game or two this season as a sophomore for Northeastern. So 2 more seasons of eligibility. A lot of size, 6'1", It's sizey on the women's side. Just 3 points, 0 goals, 3 assists last year. Looking at like line charts, third pairing most of the time. It's a good, like I said, good Northeastern team and a good defensive Northeastern team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think her responsibilities or her ice time opportunities will expand a little bit coming into St. Cloud. I put out on Twitter, I thought like a comparison with Miley Pion might be apt. Both Canadians, both on the bigger side, both more defensive minded. Not going to get a ton of offense out of that type of defender. I think a solid pickup. I mean, you mentioned the losses of Lamb and Bryant from the back end. Obviously, Grace Wolf not coming back, graduated. So you've got some ice time to be had here in the defensive core. And I think Thompson, I'm not sure if I'm going to slot her into a top pairing role. You still got like Rayla coming back. Pion, as I mentioned, there's other candidates, but I think she's going to be someone that's going to be a regular presence, certainly, and excited to see what she can bring to the table. Do you think that I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, the portal's been closed for entrance for a while, about 2 weeks. They're about 2 weeks ahead of the men, maybe even 3 weeks. I can't remember, but I mean, there's still available players in the portal, and we've got obviously we've got a recruiting class coming in, which I need to consult to see kind of like what the numbers look like in terms of how many are expected to come into campus next year. We had a big class last year, and we'll see how big that class is this year. That'll be a summer podcast
project
episode. We'll kind of go over. We'll spend an episode doing that with the women's side. We'll spend an episode doing that with the men's side, with talking about incoming freshmen. But I am a little surprised that they haven't been a little bit more active in the portal, maybe picking up at least 1 or 2 more players in the portal. I would have expected that at this point. And like I said, there's still time to do that. But just with all those losses, and we mentioned like Lamb being the biggest loss of that group, and a lot of these players like Hannah Arnold that we mentioned didn't get any action last year. Erickson and Skiston, handful of games apiece. Not the highest end losses aside from Lamb, but just having the one replacement. Basically, we made the trade Lamb for Thompson at this point. And even though I'm high on Thompson, I think that's still a downgrade based on how much we like Lamb in her freshman year here. So like the men, I think the add up plus minuses and assets, liabilities, like you're kind of losing on the portal so far. So maybe we can see some late activity in the portal. Most of those marquee names have been scooped up, and like you called this, like the beginning of portal season. Like whenever there's like a name that you're licking your chops over, like you blink your eyes and it's, Ohio State picked him up, or Wisconsin picked him up, or Quinnipiac. So some of these bigger, higher end ECAC teams, kind of the rich get richer. But hopefully the Huskies can maybe add another 1 or 2 players in the portal, and we'll kind of see how the incoming class will be looking here in a future show. But are you surprised at all that we haven't been a little bit more active with players coming into the fold?
Yeah, I am a little bit, but it's kind of a situation where I look to see St. Cloud's kind of in a unique position, I think, whereas, obviously we're not going to be the top spot that people, so we might have to do a little bit more wheeling and dealing. And on the women's side, I think, it could be a little bit more of like how they are. Like there's, I think maybe even a less of a rush to get scooped up by another team or to get because there's plenty of opportunities to get ample playing time and to find a better situation. You can kind of weigh your options a little bit more. Whereas I think on the men, it's kind of a situation of, hey, you've got so many teams calling you right there. You're gonna latch on to one very quickly, or you're into the portal because you got essentially cut from that team and you're not going to get a chance and you're just hoping to get picked up by somebody else and someone else is going to call. And that's just going to take some time. Now, in this situation, obviously a lot of the big point getters are going to be scooped up already, right away. So when I'm looking through the portal, I'm trying to see, who's available that has a position that we need that is, from at least, the Minnesota area, to see if we can kind of wager, kind of look at that. And, they've got a couple that there's a chance to kind of look at, but it's a situation where I think, the top scorers, are definitely gone. But at the same time, you've got a couple of ones, Franklin Pierce has a couple that are at least out there, that, have 20-point seasons. Avery Farrell, did very well with us from Franklin Pierce, throughout the time. So she, I think they've got a lot of teams that are kind of in the same ilk as St. Cloud State that are being aggressive and calling, and they're just weighing their options a little bit more carefully. And I wonder how much of that also goes into a lot less of a development / play for the pros, because those opportunities are way more limited versus how does this school actually line up for my next step? Because I think on the women's side, they have to look at that a lot more than they do on the men's side, because the opportunity, while it's there, and it just it's not there, obviously, the point of to the NHL or a lot more postgraduate. So kind of lining that side of it might take a little bit more aspect as well. So I don't know. But it is something that I did expect us maybe to be a little bit more, especially with how many people entered. And I don't think that should have been a surprise to the staff that many people entered in. So it's kind of a whirlwind situation, and only to have one. Yeah, I don't know what this roster is going to look like and who's going to be coming in. It's going to be kind of intriguing, much like on the men's side.
Yeah, just looking at Sydney Wolf's got a spreadsheet for incoming freshmen, or at least projected freshmen. We won't get into the names right now because we'll save that for a future show, but she's got 7 players that she's expecting a 26-27 entrance to St. Cloud. So you got 7 coming in. You had 9 that you lost. Nine. And then you've got Thompson coming in. So if you do the math that you've netted -8 in the portal, and then you're bringing in 7, you're still down 1, which again leads me to believe that either you're going to bring in a late recruit, or you're going to pick up another player, or maybe 2 in the transfer portal. One of those.
Now, does that include the seniors as well that we have to replace?
Well, no, I'm not even considering seniors. I'm just looking at the perspective of the portal.
Sure.
And he had 2 players in the portal that were goalies. I mentioned Hugo Dan Lawrence. One of these 7 incoming freshmen that Wolf lists is a goaltender. And yeah, then you've still got to replace a fair amount of seniors as well. Farrell, I saw signed in Europe, I believe.
Signed in Europe.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there still seems to be some space here for some more players, and excited to see how the roster will fill out.
Yep. So we'll hopefully have a lot more news when it comes to really on the both sides in our May show, whenever that will be. We'll keep you updated when it comes to that. But we make a lot of predictions throughout the year, and it's only fair that we come with receipts. And it's there's a lot of other. I won't name names of other, shows that like Stephen A. Smith might be on, or things along that line, where that can just spout out wild takes and have no repercussions. Nope. We are going to face the music here for our bad takes, my bad takes at least. And, we're going to see how we shake up, because that's the only way we improve. I've been teaching my kids. I've been saying, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. That's how you learn to get better at your hot takes, is by seeing where you went wrong. And I think Andrew has got plenty that he looked over from some of our prop bets and some of the other things. And we can sit and laugh about it, and I can cry, and we can see where we go from here. But I'm interested in the receipts. I forgot a lot of our prop bets and a lot of our predictions. So I want you to enlighten me, and we'll see kind of where everything shook out, Andrew. So what do we got?
Yes, it was another interesting year.
That's never a good
tallying
start.
up all of the bets. I think the most fun were the off the wall ones. Like we do the beginning of the year, September for the women, and then very first part of October for the men. Or might even I have the date for when we did the women's preview show, which is September 17th. I'm not sure when we did the men's. Oh yeah, men's was September 29th. So that's when we'll do a preview show. We predict the NCHC standings, the complete standings, and as well as the WCHA. And then we take regular season conference champions from the other leagues.
So I'm just going to sit out here and blame Arizona State.
Well, we both overinflated them. We had them both at 4th. So that one was a wash. Then we do 2 pick the field shows. We do one in November, which we do that early enough so that it's before it's intended so that it's before the pairwise or NPI really is used or can be referenced. And then we do one at the basically the start of the second half. So we did that show on December 29th. That's one where we know what the pairwise looks like. And we do another pick the field for both the women and the men. So we're seeing who's going to actually be in the NCAA tournament for both of those. But then, so those are our major times of the season that we put some detailed predictions on the record. But throughout the year, we'll have just random kind of one-offs. And during our prediction shows at the beginning of the season, we'll have some random one-offs. And I think those are the ones I'll save till the end, because I feel like those are the best.
All right, perfect.
So women's preview of the WCHA, I almost nailed the standings order. The only thing I got wrong was flipping. I had St. Cloud at 5th and Mankato at 6th, and that could have happened. It went down to the last day of the regular season. That I could have nailed it with St. Cloud finishing ahead of Mankato, but yours was not quite as good. You had Wisconsin, Ohio State, then you had Duluth over Minnesota. That was wrong. You still had St. Cloud at 5th, like I did, and that was not right. They finished 6th. You had St. Thomas over Mankato, so you had Mankato at 7th. That would have been your biggest
that
miss.
was bad. Okay.
Because they ended up at 5th. We both had Bemidji in last. So you had 3 correct. I had 6 correct for the WCHA, which, again, it's not as difficult, I think, on the women's side than it is predicting the NCHC, because we know that Wisconsin and Ohio State are going to be basically 1-2. We knew Bemidji was going to be last. The others were a little bit up for grabs.
The others took skill, and you can clearly tell where I fell on that one.
And we didn't do very well on predicting the regular season champs for the other leagues. We only nailed Penn State with Atlantic Hockey. We don't get any bonus points for that, because I don't think anyone that follows women's hockey would not. If someone was picking someone other than Penn State to win Atlantic at the beginning of the season, they must not know much about women's hockey. So you had picked, you were closer because you had UConn win Hockey East. I had BU. BU is terrible this year. You were also closer on ECAC, although both the teams we picked for ECAC, you picked Cornell, I picked Colgate. Neither of them even made the tournament. Quinnipiac won the regular season title there. At least UConn made the tournament out of Hockey East. Northeastern was the champ, but UConn at least made it to the tournament. I can't say the same thing about BU. NCHC standings, you won that.
Hey.
Congrats for you. I got 0 of the 9 places correct.
Wow.
You nailed both CC at 6th, and you had Omaha at 8th. Those were right on the money. We both had Miami at 9th, which I'm sure everybody else had Miami at 9th, and
that's
they
true.
were 7th. We both had St. Cloud at 7th, so we were underselling the Huskies, who ended up at 5th place. Neither of us. I had UND higher. I had them at 2. You had them at 3. They were the champ. They were the Penrose champion. And like I said, we both had Arizona State at 4th, which was our biggest whiff. You had UMD higher. You just had everyone a little bit higher, or at least properly placed than I did. And you had 2 that were right on what their ending standing was. So that's a definite win for Weldie in NCHC standings. We both we both picked 3 of the 5 regular season champs in the other leagues. They were the same picks in each case. We both had Mankato win CCHA. We both had Michigan State win in Big Ten. We both had Quinnipiac win in ECAC. Both swung and missed at Atlantic and Hockey East, but that was a wash, at least. For the Pick the Field shows, I win cumulatively between the 2 shows. You had 8 of the 11 of the women's team in our first Pick the Field show. So again, not really using the pairwise / NPI at this point. You had 8 of the 11. I had 7 of the 11. So advantage Weldie. The men's side, I had 12 of the 16 correct. You had 10 of the 16 correct at the first Pick the Field show. I don't know as far as like big misses. I mean, I had Bentley at that point. I had Bentley in both Pick the Field shows for the Atlantic winner, and that was nice that I got that. We were swinging and missing with women's ECAC all year. Neither of us had Yale in any of our Pick the Field shows, and they ended up winning, or they ended up making the tournament at least.
Yeah.
What else did the men's side? I mean, I had Dartmouth from the start, which was a nice snag for me. So I had them in both Pick the Field shows. You didn't have them or you had them in the second Pick the Field show. You didn't have them in the first. I was true to Augustana, and they didn't make it. So I get the 12-10 edge for the men's side, the first Pick the Field show. I stay at my 12 for the second Pick the Field show. You bumped yours up to 12. So we tied there on the men's side for the second Pick the Field show. For the women's side, you picked up, or you stayed the same.
I'm just happy I got better, because I would have been really upset if I fell backwards from the beginning of the year.
And you held water for the women's side. You remained at 8 for our second Pick the Field show. I actually bumped up 3. I got to 10. So I had 10 out of 11 in December, which I think a big reason there was I snagged Franklin Pierce out of Newha. I like that. And I also had Princeton, where you did not have Princeton out of ECAC. So you tally it all up. I guess I'll take the win there for the Pick the Field shows. 10 out of 11. I got to see if I've been. I think that's my best showing, at least for the women's side. And 12, I'll say, for both of us to get 12 out of 16 on the men's side, it's a pretty good showing. So I think we did pretty well on the Pick the Field shows. That's 75% basically of the field that we're nailing. So not bad.
I'll take it.
All right, so let's do some of these fun ones. So for the women's side, we got a prop bet. over 2.5, over 2.5 number of Huskies scores with 10 goals or more. You went under, I went over. You get that one. There was just 2 scorers that had 10 or more goals for the Huskies. Do you know who those 2 were? We're talking about women's side.
It was Sunderland and McCallion.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good. And the third, there was a bunch of players that tied for third with 8. So we didn't even have like one with 9. That would have been right there on the doorstep with 10. We had another prop bet. Would the top scorer for the women's team have 30 points or more? You went 30 or higher. I went under 30. I barely win that because Soriel had 29.
Yep,
so
Soriel had 29.
That's a tough beat for you.
Hey, but you know what? That shows the over-under was placed really well.
It's a very good over-under.
So
I like this one. Wisconsin or the field for the NCAA champ. You took Wisconsin. I took the field.
There we go.
You collect the point there. I'm not sure. I have to go back and listen to it, but there's one here. Abby Murphy, 90 penalty minutes, higher or lower. I went under, you went higher. Now, did we know about the Olympics and that she was out for a couple of games? She had 67 penalty minutes. Yep. So even if she would have not had the Olympic duty, I don't think she would have cracked 90. I don't believe.
No, she was way more disciplined this year.
I don't even think the top penalty minutes getter in the country, I don't think that player cracked 90. Let me just double check. Yes, 67, which was good enough for third in the country. Yeah, Tessa Janicki from Penn State at 72. So not even cracking 80 with any of these players. Miley Pion, 63 penalty minutes. Good for tied for 5th in the country penalty minutes.
There we go.
And it was that BS major in Ohio State that might have been 15 minutes worth right there.
I think so.
And she might have gotten a 10 minutes contact with that one. So that one was a.
I think I remember. I even made a point to be like, even with the Olympics, she's going to clear 90 easy. So
and she goes from 118 in her third year, 23-24. She goes from that to 87 last year to 67 this year. Now, again, she played 11 less games this year than she did last year. So she was a little bit more disciplined. Good for her. We had one, whether or not a freshman would be among the top 3 goal scorers for the Huskies, so not just points, but goal scorers. I said yes. You said no.
Oh, wow.
Now, McCallion was in that top 3.
That really surprises me. I should go back and look to see who I would have even thought of the 3, because I remember being. I
think it was more like it's just, we're talking about St. Cloud women's hockey in the last couple of years. It's just been difficult to score, just in general, and thinking about how freshmen were going to adapt. I mean, do you think with McCallion, just do you remember what your expectations were of her? Because I feel like she exceeded my expectations, even though I thought I had some decently high expectations for her. Because I think I would have mentioned her as the person who I thought would have been among the top 3 goal scorers for this question. So even if I did have some expectations about her, and we've talked about how the scoring that she was able to produce against top end teams like Wisconsin, I think that was among the more pleasant surprises of her season. It's not like she was just racking up these goals against Lindenwood and Bemidji. Mm-hmm. She was impressive against the elite of the WCHA as well. So, even kind of factoring in the freshman factor and the unknown of how she would, how her game would translate to North America. But I think she's a player that's really, she's got me excited for next year to see how well she's going to continue to develop.
Yep, very much so.
And this one was one that was looking great after the first weekend. And I was really high on Siri Urela at the beginning of the season. So I put a prop bet out there about if Urela was going to be the top point scorer among defenders. And I took that bet. You went, no, she was not going to be the top scorer, which you were correct there because Grace Wolf paced the point scoring from defenders. But like I said, Urela had that 5-point opening weekend against Lindenwood, if you remember. She only gets 9 points, for the entire season. And I mean, she had a 2-point game against St. Thomas early in the season too. At that point, she had 7 points in 7 games. You're thinking point per game pace. Here we go.
Yeah.
And she did miss some time at the Olympics. So she missed 6 games or whatever it was in February. But still, I thought the second half was a slow one for her. And that's one where I think now, especially with Wolf gone and with Lamb gone, Urela, it certainly seems to be the top returning defender on this roster. We should hope that she takes that next step forward, because I think that maybe next year, maybe I'll continue this bet next year because she might be my
try to go over 2 on it, right?
Well, I don't want. Well, that's being a pessimist. We're never pessimistic on this show.
No, not at all.
Not at all. How about some men's prop bets? Again, these were from the very beginning, prior to the season started. So, all point totals were at 0 for everybody. We kind of went with we had a bet in particular. Because remember, if you think the beginning of the season, one of our big questions was how the goaltending situation would shake out. Was someone going to emerge? Was it going to be a even split tandem situation? So we had some games played and did an over-under with those. We put the over-under at Showstack 20.5 games played. Weldie went with the over. So you were definitely thinking that Showstack was going to take this job by the horns and run with it. And then similar to that, we had Burzins at 10.5, which you went under. Gray, 5.5 under. I was right on all these because I took the under on Showstack. I took the over on Burzins. I thought it was going to be more of a split. I took the under on Gray as well. But talk about a bad beat / great over under, because Showstack ends up playing 20 games. So you miss it there by 0.5. But again, take the victory lap for setting a good over under, because that's right on the nuts.
I gotta be a little bit worse at that in my favor. So if I think it's going to be, around that, I got to go a couple.
You should have gone 19.5, and then you would have been in the clear. We had a couple of prop bets regarding Ingram. Beginning of the season, we had Ingram at 7.5 goals. We both took the over. It took us a while even to get 1 goal on the board for Ingram. Did he end up at 3 or 2? And they're all like the very tail end of the season.
No, I think
certainly did not get. Let's double check. I'm going to say 3. Yeah, 3 goals, 10 assists. In his last 2 years combined, 5 goals. He doesn't even hit the over if we're including last year's unfortunately. And then if you remember, he doesn't play that first game, and it was apparently due to academics. So at that point, we put in the over-under, is Ingram going to be kicked off in the second half of the season? We both correctly predicted he would not, and we both took a over of 10.5 games played. At that point, the goals were out the door for over-unders. We were over-undering games played because we didn't know if he would be able to keep the grades. Oh, man. We were able to get those correct, but we did not. We were thinking a little bit more from Ingram, and you could copy and paste that reaction the last 24 months when it comes to Ingram. Next one we had whether or not, and again, another decent over-under here, Weldie. was there going to be a goal scorer over? You set the over under at 17.5 goals. You went no. I went yes, which I would have been correct because there was not one but two players that exceeded 17.5. Do you want to guess who those players were?
I mean, Bernovic.
He had 20 to lead the team.
Yeah, he had 20. I would imagine it was Gross. He had
Gross. Yep, Gross had 18.
18.
So again, right there with that over under. But again, you were, and for good reason, you were pessimistic about if this team could score based on the 24-25 season. So a historically bad offensive season for the Huskies. So a good over under have, and glad that glad that I won that. Not that I care about me winning the prop bet, but I care about the Huskies being able to score a little bit more. But sad.
Yeah, you winning the prop bet is a little bit of
and we don't have any more Tyson Gross, and we don't. And Bernovic's playing in a different county next year, so tier for that. We of course had to have a Gavin McKenna prop bet. You set the over under at 69.5 points. Nice. And you went over on that. I went under. I gotta look. I know that I won that. I think he was somewhere in the 50s.
Yeah.
Let me get the exact point total for McKenna. 51. And he had to get there with, what was that, 8-point game that he had against Ohio State, was it? Yeah, he had an 8-point game. The second half was much better than the first half. But I missed and you, I mean, remember when he was recruited, there was people thinking that he was going to crack 100. That seemed crazy even then. It gets halfway there, essentially. I mean, still led Penn State in scoring and had a good season. I don't think he really, other than his little incident at the steakhouse there, I don't think he really ruined his draft status. I think he's still going to be, if not number one in the top 3, let's say. So, but yeah, it was a weird season with the hype that he had. And I remember going to the first game of his college career.
That's
Tempe.
Right. You were there in attendance.
A lot of scouts there. You also had the Arizona State hype kind of colliding with that, and that went down the toilet pretty quickly. So it's interesting to think back on that. You had one as well, Ocean Wallace. You set the games played over under at 3.5. You went under, I went over, so you pick up that one.
Yeah.
You also had a sub side bet on this one that is not applicable, because you said more penalty minutes than games played, which would have been true for that first year of his, that freshman year of his, with the 4 penalty minutes, according to CHN, 4 penalty minutes in 2 games. But he didn't crack the lineup, so we won't count that one against you, but you don't get the bonus point for that one. And we did have, I'm saving the best for last. I mean, some of these we've already went over, like the Gross appearing in the NHL game.
Sure.
We didn't. We both picked the opponent that Calgary would play in Gross's first game. We both got that wrong.
Both
ended up being Tampa Bay. But at the in the second pick the field show, we did a Hobie pick. We usually do a Hobie pick, and we do a national champion pick. I should go back and clip it. You thought the for national title team, you thought either a Big Ten team was going to win or Duluth. You were thinking the Big Ten was going to break their schneid, and if not that, then Duluth. And I just have the quote here: "Feels like a Denver year." So I'm gonna give myself the win on that one.
Oh, that's fair.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It was
Denver did win.
And then Hobie, I've got A for Andrew. I got M Plant you had Horkoff from Michigan, who actually was TJ Hughes that ended up being the Michigan finalist for that award. So I nailed the national title winning team and the Hobie in that second pick the field show. And to my chagrin, I don't like to see Duluth pick up Hobies, yet another Hobie. But
or Denver winning another one.
Or Denver winning another one. But I'll take those two. Those are decent snags.
Those are good snipes.
4 months out or whatever. So I think you add it all up. I'm not going to add it all up, but I'll just say that I came out on top this year. I think it was last year. I think you did more wins than I did. So it's no science. I thought we both did pretty good on the pick the field shows, and so I like those prop bets. Let's definitely do some more of those.
Let's keep it coming
this coming year. Yeah, with those those kind of off the wall prop bets. I like those.
Right, perfect. Yeah, we can do that. And yeah, it's always kind of fun to go back and also be like, oh, what the hell was I thinking? So
yeah,
and also I get to yell at Sacred Heart and like, come on. Should we do one prop bet right now? Jumpstart for next year. Over under 0.5. Us show votes for Brown.
Well, it's because that's a good question because
preseason
they've got a new coach, and maybe we'll find out if the Brown voter was the ex-Brown coach. But he's no longer there. So it'd be interesting if there wasn't a Brown vote, then maybe that would point to Brandon Whittet being the infamous Brown voter.
Yes.
So are you gonna go over? You're gonna go over?
I'm still gonna say
I gotta start a new tab here for 26, 27 bets.
There we go. We're starting hot.
And just to be to play fair here, I will go under, and I'll say
you don't have to. You can also go. We can move the over under. That's what they do in Vegas too. I mean, I'm not going over 1.5. So if you
no, 0.5 is the over under because they're not going to get more than one vote. But I'll say it was Whittet this whole time.
All right, I like it.
Yeah,
it's not a bad theory. So it's so but
and this is just the very first Us Show poll.
Very first preseason poll. I mean, we could probably go until Brown plays a game and loses. So that's been the tendency, except for that. I think, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? The Brown voter might have not gotten their ballot in on time.
There was a show where I did it way too deep a dive on that. I went back like the last 20 years to find out, to look at the initial Us Show polls, and there was like a year or two that it wasn't there, but it wouldn't be there the first poll, but then it would show up in like the second week's poll. So that whoever it was probably forgot the first. They didn't.
Oh, that's right. Brown's at number 20.
But yeah, it was almost, and I think it even that's why I thought it wasn't Whittet, because it even predated him taking that job. So, but that person
it's just got to be the Brown coach. It's like there's always got to be one Stark in Winterfell. There's always got to be a Brown coach voting for Brown in the first poll.
Maybe that's this Tom Upton who they hired. Maybe that was part of the interview process. It's like, hey, you got to keep this tradition. You got to keep this up, and you got to vote for Brown. The very first Us Show poll. That was something they needed to pass on to the new guy. We will see. It's officially down in the spreadsheet, so we've got another season already started.
Perfect. We did have one email come in from Zach about his Mount Rushmore of SCSU hockey. It's at first you got the guys who really
do. We want to on show production meeting. I thought it was a great email as well. We should have. I wanted to bring this up. I can't even remember that I sent you this email. But
you did.
do we want to do like a summer show with this?
You want to do it like a full summer show?
Yeah, because I want to think about my Mount Finger.
I thought when you sent it to me, it was like, hey, this is going to be our next. We should think about this. So I've got my.
Maybe I should have put something like a little text.
And I put a feeler out on Facebook for some fans.
Did you?
So
we can but it's an evergreen topic. We can shove it off because maybe we can get some more responses if we put out feelers maybe for a couple of weeks on social media, because I think it's a good idea. So let's put that on ice, because I think that's
okay. All
I
right.
I like the email from Zach. We always like hearing from Zach, and his
Zamora also sent me a text too.
Good.
And then
and it's
my
better.
Buddy
like
Tom also said his top 4 fans. So I was not on that list. I'm a little ticked off about that, but whatever. It's fine.
Well, great. No, I think
the Puppy Crown Panther does get a mention. I will say that. So
yeah, the amount of responses we've already gotten, we should make this a bigger. Like we dedicate a whole show to it. I think to the summer. We need good summer content.
And I've also been kicking around a couple ideas here for shows throughout the summer too. I might do kind of some talk about from some old, former KVSE guys who now have moved on to different ranks or different jobs, and maybe like from a broadcasting perspective, not necessarily just about hockey, but maybe like a little side project of like from the booth or something like that. Just, I'm kind of working out some details, brainstorming some things. The tough part about that is like, if I do that, I kind of want it to be maybe a little bit more, I don't know, scripted. And like, I don't really have the patience or the planning or the foresight to actually come up with what topics to go for. I like to kind of go off the cuff, but I don't know. So, I'm looking at that as an option. I've been kind of in contact with some of the old guard too, and see if they'd want to come on and do a little episode. So I don't know. It's just some options. I got, couple of what sticks in the fire and see what happens to kind of spice up some of the off-season shows too. I know they could. It's sometime when we get to the July, August, it could be. It's the not a lot of news coming through. It is a rule change year though, so that is something that I can definitely start being
that'll take up a half an hour. You'll rant about if they're going to drop the puck or not on time.
Well, then add on to that the floating around the possibility of 5-year eligibility, and the clock starting right after they their senior year that they graduate. So it's that is something that I'm sure Andrew has thoughts. I have thoughts about it. More so actually what it does to junior hockey. Not so much NCAA, but I think I want to wait on that until anything actually becomes final, because to speculate
will
about
be official one way or the other pretty soon, within the next few months at least. So we can expand on it. Rule changes, when you bring that up, I'm more thinking of what's the tweak in the video review process.
100%.
There's always one of those, and those are more the actual on ice rules that get tweaked every couple years. Always look forward to those.
Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some kind of just random one that wasn't an issue before, and then they're going to turn it into something and gonna be like, what the heck? Where did that come from? And then obviously, I think sites, regional sites. I don't know if they're getting announced, so we might have some.
I think there are. They might come out like September, October. I'm not sure exactly when those come up, but I feel like they're maybe we'll see.
They're usually, but
yeah, and I think they have their coaches meetings down in Florida. That might be like this week. Something comes out of there usually. So yeah, that will probably be discussed on the next show, whenever that is, sometime in May. Probably not next week, at the very least. But yeah, it's been a good year, if not the best year on the ice for the Huskies. We do like the show. We like putting it out on a weekly basis during the season. We take the summer to rejuvenate ourselves. We just do it once a month. And we get to get into some more bigger picture topics, which I do look forward to.
Exactly. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I am Weldie at More Clappers, MOAR, More Clappers. Andrew, you can find him at
Andrew, SCSUHHP. Email the show, like Zach did, and we'll put out feelers when we're going to do that Mount Finger, should say.
Mount Finger.
Do that.
That's right. I didn't mean to say Mount Rushmore. It is Mount Finger.
Maybe it'll be May. Maybe it'll be June. But whenever you do, whenever we will have that show, we'll put out the bat signal for everybody to turn in their 4 heads on the mountain. St. Cloud State Hockey, Cloud Coverage Hockey Substack. I had a piece about doing a series on coaching changes throughout the years. Had the Herb Brooks article, which was really interesting to research.
My mom really enjoyed it, by the way.
And thank you for reading, Mom, and doing the Craig Dahl one right now. And it's very interesting. And even done some of the Motzko research as well. And I was around then, and there was some details on that I've either never learned or had learned and forgot.
I'm really interested because like a lot of the online sphere, like we weren't as chronically online in that point of time. So like to hearing how the inner workings of all that is something I'm really excited for. Obviously Dahl was before my time when it comes to it, but Motzko, I was right in the thick of it. So that aspect I'm really excited to get some insight on. So what you're working on is obviously it's well researched, well written, and a lot of fun to kind of go down those. So I'm excited for what's on the docket.
Yeah, it's fun for me as well.
And again, I love the name. Should change the name of the podcast. Cloud Coverage Hockey. I think it's good.
Is that vertical expansion or is that horizontal? I don't know what the business term is there, but
I don't know. We're merging the podcast, and really, I'm actually just leeching off your Substack. Actually, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, we can discuss that. Because Huskies Hockey Podcast, that could be Northeastern hockey. That could be Michigan Tech.
Could be UConn. It could be
UConn. Could be a lot of Huskies. It could just be about dogs playing hockey, kind of like the dogs playing poker picture. There maybe the same guy did a dogs playing hockey one, and that there was a bunch of Huskies there. It is a little imprecise, I know, but we can discuss that. We can discuss that off the show. And I'll get my intellectual property attorney to be in contact with you soon in due time. But until that time, you can read those articles and listen back to the shows, listen to those, pick the field shows if you want. I'm going to have to do that because I want to get the sound bite when I nailed the Denver win and the Hobie win, because I want some audio proof of that to be
you want
frozen
some proof?
In time.
Yeah,
yes.
That's a good point. Is there a more famous piece of American art than dogs playing poker?
I don't think so.
Like,
I think it's all been downhill since then.
Yeah, I mean, Nighthawks, I guess, is one. I mean,
Nighthawks, and then Nighthawks is a close second, but it really doesn't get better.
It really is the dogs playing poker. I think that's kind of the main one it comes down to. So, until next time, go Huskies. Woo!